I don't talk about this much anymore. Not because I'm scared of it happening again, but because every time I've tried to explain it, people assume I'm exaggerating or trying to tell it a campfire story. I'm not. I'm just trying to get it out of my head. The way you might write down a dream so it stops looping in your mind. This happened in 2017, when I was 24 and living alone for the first time. I had a small one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, the kind of place where the walls were thin enough to hear your neighbors sneeze, but thick enough that you could pretend you weren't lonely. I work nights at a warehouse, so most of my day happened between midnight and sunrise. It wasn't ideal, but it paid well enough, and I liked the quiet. Back then, I spent a lot of time online, not in a social way, more like lurking on forums, reading weird threads, watching videos that probably should have been taken down. I wasn't into anything illegal or extreme. I just liked the strange corners of the internet, the places where people posted things they didn't want tied to their real names. That's how I found the thread. It was on a forum I won't name, mostly because I'm not sure it still exists. It wasn't Reddit or 4chan or anything mainstream. It was one of those old school message boards with a black background and neon text, the kind that looked like it hadn't been updated since 2005. The thread title was simple: Has anyone else seen the quiet ones? I clicked because I assumed it was about sleep paralysis or shadow people, stuff I'd read about 100 times. But the first post wasn't like that. It was short, almost hesitant. They don't move unless you're not looking. They stand in places where people shouldn't stand. Corners, doorways, behind cars. They're not ghosts, they're not people. They're just quiet. There was no picture, no story. Just that. The replies were a mix of jokes, insults, and a few people claiming they'd seen something similar. I didn't think much of it. I read weird stuff all the time. But something about the phrasing stuck with me. Places where people shouldn't stand. It felt oddly specific. I closed the tab and went on with my night. A few days later, the thread popped up again. Someone had replied to it, bumping it to the top. This time, the original poster had added something. They're not dangerous, I don't think, but they watch, and they learn. If you see one, don't acknowledge it. Don't talk to it. Don't post about it. They don't like attention. That part bothered me, not because I believed it, but because it felt like the kind of thing someone writes when they're trying too hard to be creepy. Still, I kept reading. One user asked where the OP had seen them. The OP replied, "Near my building, at night. They stand under the streetlight, but the light doesn't hit them." Another user asked what they looked like a person who forgot how to be a person. That line made me close the tab again, not out of fear, just discomfort. It felt too poetic for a forum like that. I didn't think about it again until the night I saw something outside my apartment. It was around 3 a.m. I'd just gotten home from work and was sitting on my couch eating leftover pasta straight from the container. My blinds were open because I liked seeing the parking lot. It made me feel less boxed in. At some point, I noticed a shape near the dumpster. Not a person exactly, more like the outline of one. Someone standing too still, facing the building. I remember squinting, trying to figure out if it was a trick of the light. The parking lot lamps were those harsh orange ones that make everything look grainy. The figure didn't move, didn't shift, didn't sway, just stood there. I told myself it was a neighbor taking out trash or smoking, but they weren't doing anything, and they were standing too close to the dumpster, like inches away from it, facing it directly. I looked away for a second, just to grab my phone, and when I looked back, the figure was gone. I didn't think quiet one. I didn't think anything supernatural. I just thought, weird. Maybe I'm more tired than I realized. I closed the blinds and went to bed. The next night, I checked the thread again. I don't know why. Maybe because the image of that figure had been lingering in my mind. The OP had posted again. "They're getting closer. I think they know I'm talking about them." Someone replied, asking what that meant. The OP wrote, "They weren't near my building before. Now they're outside my window." Another user accused them of trolling. The OP didn't respond. I scrolled through the comments, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and unease. It was probably a hoax, but the timing bothered me. I'd seen something weird the night before, and now this stranger was claiming something similar. I closed the tab again. But I didn't stop thinking about it. 2 nights later, I saw another figure. This time, it was closer. I was walking from my car to my apartment, keys in hand, when I noticed someone standing near the stairwell. They were half hidden in the shadow between two buildings, not moving, not shifting, just there. I slowed down, trying to make out details. They were facing me, I think, but I couldn't see a face, just the shape of a head, shoulders, arms hanging too straight at their sides. I told myself it was a neighbor, someone waiting for a ride or talking on the phone. But they weren't holding anything, and they weren't reacting to me at all. I walked faster, pretending I didn't see them. My heart was pounding, but I kept my pace steady. When I reached my door, I glanced back. The space between the buildings was empty. I locked my door behind me. I spent the next few days convincing myself it was nothing. A trick of the light, a tired mind, a neighbor I didn't recognize, a coincidence with the forum thread. I even stopped checking the thread for a while. I didn't want to feed into whatever paranoia was creeping in. But the feeling didn't go away. I started keeping my blinds closed. I double-checked my locks. I left the TV on at night, just for background noise. I told myself it was just stress from work. But then the thread resurfaced again. It was around 4 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I opened the forum out of habit. The thread was at the top again, but this time the OP's username was grayed out, banned or deleted. Their final post was still there though. It was short. If they find you, don't look away. Don't blink. Don't turn your back. They move when you're not watching. Someone replied, asking what happened. Another user said the OP had been posting strange comments in other threads, nonsense mostly. Repeating phrases, talking about faces that don't fit. Then the account disappeared. I stared at the screen for a long time, feeling a cold, sinking sensation in my stomach. It wasn't fear exactly, more like recognition, because earlier that night, I'd seen something again. This one was inside the building. I was coming home from work, walking down the hallway toward my apartment. The lights in the hallway flickered sometimes, so I didn't think much of it when the far end dimmed for a second, but when the lights came back on, someone was standing at the end of the hall, facing me, too still, too straight. I froze. My brain tried to make sense of it. Neighbor, maintenance worker, someone waiting for the elevator, but none of those explanations fit. They were standing in the middle of the hallway, not near any door or fixture, just standing. I took a step back. The figure didn't move. I blinked. And they were closer, not by much, maybe a foot or two, but enough that I knew I hadn't imagined it. I didn't blink again. I backed toward my apartment, keeping my eyes locked on the figure. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my keys twice before I got the door open. When I finally slipped inside and slammed the door shut, I pressed my back against it, breathing hard. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear anything. But I didn't sleep that night. For about a week, nothing happened. No figures, no strange sights, no updates to the thread. I started to feel stupid for being scared. I told myself it was all in my head, that the hallway figure had been a shadow or a trick of the flickering lights, that the parking lot shapes were just people I didn't recognize. I even opened the blinds again. Life went back to normal. Until the night I got the message. It wasn't from the forum. It wasn't from any account I recognized. It was an email sent to the address I use for junk signups and newsletters. The subject line was blank. The body of the email contained one sentence. You shouldn't have looked away. No signature, no username, no IP information I could see. Just that. I deleted it immediately, but the damage was done. The fear came back, sharper than before. I checked the peephole on my door 3 times that night. I didn't see anything, but I didn't sleep either. This is the part I still have trouble talking about. It was a Thursday morning, around 6 a.m. I'd been awake all night, too anxious to sleep. I was sitting on my couch, staring at the blank TV screen, when I heard something. A soft, deliberate knock. Not on my door. On my window. I froze. My blinds were closed, but the knock came again, 3 slow taps, spaced evenly apart. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. A shadow passed behind the blinds, not a full silhouette, just the suggestion of movement. Someone standing inches away from the glass. I wanted to look. I wanted to know. But I remembered the OP's last post. Don't look away. Don't blink. Don't turn your back. I stayed perfectly still. The shadow lingered for a long time, minutes maybe, then it moved away. I didn't open the blinds, I didn't check outside, I just sat there until the sun came up. The next day I packed a bag and left. I didn't break my lease, I didn't tell my landlord. I just left the keys on the counter and drove to my sister's house 2 hours away. I told her I needed a break from work. She didn't ask questions. I stayed with her for 3 weeks. Nothing strange happened. No figures, no knocks, no emails. Eventually, I found a new apartment in a different part of town. A nicer place with better lighting and thicker walls. Life went back to normal, mostly. About a year later, I got curious. I tried to find the forum again. Not the thread, just the site itself. It was gone, not offline, not archived, gone, like it had never existed. I searched for cached pages, mirrors, anything. Nothing came up. No references, no mentions, no screenshots. It was like the entire forum had been erased from the internet. I tried searching for the phrase quiet ones. All I found were unrelated posts, creepypasta, and a few obscure mentions that didn't match what I'd read. It was as if the thread had never existed, or as if it had been removed, not by moderators, but by something else. This is the part that still keeps me up sometimes. A few months ago, years after everything happened, I got another email. Same blank subject line, same untraceable address. The message was shorter this time. Still watching. I deleted it immediately. I closed my blinds, and I haven't opened them since. If you're reading this, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just telling you what happened to me. Maybe it was all in my head. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe it was a prank. But sometimes, late at night, when the apartment is quiet and the blinds are drawn, I swear I can feel someone standing on the other side of the window. Not knocking, not moving, just waiting. And I don't look, I don't blink, I don't turn my back, because I don't know what happens if I do, and I don't want to find out.